How do you know if you're actually healing? Because it is easy to feel healed when nobody is challenging you. It's easy to feel healed when you're by yourself. It's easy to feel healed when nobody is disagreeing with you, confronting you, misunderstanding you, or telling you something about yourself that you don't necessarily want to hear. But what happens when you get into a relationship with somebody and they experience you differently than you experience yourself? That might be where you find out how much healing has actually taken place. Recently, I had an experience that made me ask myself this question. Can we become so committed to our healing journey that we actually start weaponizing our healing? Because at some point, healing has to survive relationship. And when I say relationship, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about friendships, family, coworkers, church relationships. Any environment where another human being gets close enough to experience you. Because you can learn all the language, boundaries, triggers, emotional safety, protecting your peace, self-awareness, healing. And all those things can be healthy. But there's a danger when we become so fluent in the language of healing that we stop allowing relationships to reveal the places where we may still need healing. I recently had a difficult conversation with someone, and I'm intentionally not going into the details because the details aren't the lesson. What the experience revealed is the lesson. I listened intently as this person shared how they experienced me. I didn't interrupt. I actually took notes. And some of what I heard wasn't necessarily comfortable, but I wanted to understand. But then when it was my opportunity to explain or to address the points that were made, I experienced difficulty in that conversation. So eventually I realized we weren't getting anywhere. So I ended the conversation. But here's what I think is important. I may have ended the conversation, but I didn't end the self-examination. Afterwards, I still reflected, not just on what the other person did, but on me. I asked myself, what could I have done differently? Could I have chosen different words? Was there another way I could have communicated what I was trying to say? Was there something in me that I couldn't see? Because here's something I'm learning. Just because something is my experience doesn't mean my perspective about another person is automatically true. My experience is real, but my interpretation of you is still my interpretation. And I think that's where maturity requires humility. But that led me to another question. What happens when we don't allow other people to tell us how they're experiencing us at all? Because you don't have to agree with someone's experience of you to listen to it. Let me repeat that. Listening is not agreement. Someone can say, this is how I experienced you. And I can say, that's not what I intended. Both things can be true. My intention doesn't erase your experience, and your experience doesn't automatically define my character. That's why healthy relationships require curiosity. Help me understand why you experienced me that way. That's different from immediately defending yourself. That's different from interrupting, and that's different from withdrawing simply because what I'm hearing makes me uncomfortable. But let me make an important distinction here. Healing does not mean you have to remain in an unproductive conversation. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is recognize we're not getting anywhere right now and end the conversation. The question isn't simply whether you stayed or left. The question is, what was motivating you? Did you leave because you couldn't tolerate being challenged? Or did you leave because the conversation was no longer allowing for mutual listening, understanding, and respect? Because here's what I'm learning. A boundary can end the conversation without ending your self-examination. You can still walk away from an unhealthy interaction and still ask, what was mine? What could I have done differently? What did that interaction expose in me? That's where healing gets deeper. Because maybe one of the greatest tests of healing isn't how well you can identify everybody else's dysfunction. Maybe it's how willing we are to examine our own. Because sometimes we can see everybody else's patterns and completely miss our own. We can identify everybody else's triggers while being controlled by ours. We can talk about accountability while resisting correction. We can establish boundaries while never asking whether we're using some of those boundaries to avoid discomfort. And we can protect our peace so aggressively that we accidentally protect our patterns too. This is something I've been learning while writing my upcoming book, The Root Cause. We spend a lot of time looking at the fruit, the argument, the defensiveness, the withdrawal, the anger, the broken relationship. But I've learned to ask, what's underneath it? Because the fruit isn't always the problem. Sometimes the fruit is simply revealing the condition of the roots. So if somebody says something about me and I immediately become defensive, I need to ask, what did that touch? If correction feels like rejection, why? If disagreement feels like disrespect, why? If someone's perspective of me threatens my identity, why? If my first instinct when someone challenges me is to leave, why? Not because leaving is always wrong. Sometimes walking away is absolutely necessary. But healing requires enough self-awareness to know the difference between I'm leaving because this relationship or conversation is unhealthy, and I'm leaving because this conversation is uncomfortable. Those are not necessarily the same thing. So instead of asking, am I healed? Maybe we need better questions. So the first question I've been asking, can I hear something uncomfortable about myself without immediately defending myself? You don't have to agree, but you can listen long enough to understand. The second question, can I separate my intentions from somebody else's experience? I didn't mean it that way doesn't automatically mean you shouldn't have experienced it that way. Sometimes impact and intention are different. My third question, can I examine myself without automatically making myself the villain? Self-reflection isn't self-condemnation. You can acknowledge what you could have done differently without taking responsibility for everything that happened. That's important. Because accountability doesn't mean taking ownership of someone else's behavior. It means being willing to take ownership of yours. And the fourth question I'm asking, can I remain curious when my instinct is to withdraw? Again, sometimes withdrawal is necessary. But ask yourself, am I protecting myself from harm, or am I protecting myself from information that I don't want to hear? That's a very different question. And here's what I'm realizing. You can do a tremendous amount of healing by yourself. You can journal. You can pray. You can go to therapy. You can read books. You can study your patterns. You can establish boundaries. You can spend time alone with God. All of that matters. But eventually, some of your healing has to be tested in relationship. Because relationship exposes things isolation can't. Patience requires somebody to test your patience. Forgiveness requires something to forgive. Boundaries requires opportunity to enforce them. Communication requires somebody who may misunderstand you. Humility requires moments when you might be wrong. And self-awareness requires being willing to consider that there may be something about yourself that you cannot see on your own. That's why healthy relationships can become mirrors. Not perfect mirrors. Because people have their own wounds, biases, perceptions, and blind spots too. But sometimes God allows relationships to reveal what isolation allowed us to overlook. Psalms 139:23-24 says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting." That's the posture I want to maintain. Search me, not just them. Show me, not just them. Reveal what's happening in my heart, not just theirs. So maybe the goal isn't to reach some point where you can say, "I'm healed." Maybe the healthier posture is, "I'm healing. I'm still learning. I'm still becoming. I'm still examining. I'm still allowing God to search me." And when conflict happens, instead of only asking what's wrong with them, I'm learning to ask, what is this revealing in me? Not because everything someone says about me is true. Not because every relationship deserves continued access to me. Not because I have to accept someone else's perception of my identity. And not because ending the conversation means I failed at healing. Sometimes ending the conversation is the boundary. But even after the boundary, I can still examine the root. Because I never want my commitment to healing to become the very thing that prevents me from seeing where I still need to heal. So here's the question I want you to sit with. When someone you trust tells you something uncomfortable about yourself, what happens inside of you? Do you become curious? Do you become defensive? Do you immediately explain? Do you interrupt? Do you shut down? Do you withdraw? And then ask yourself, what might that reaction be revealing about the root? Because sometimes the relationship isn't creating the wound. It's exposing where the wound still exists. And what gets exposed can finally be healed. If this gave you language for something you've been experiencing, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with somebody who's committed to doing the deeper work. And if these conversations about examining what's underneath our patterns resonates with you, that's exactly why I wrote my upcoming book, The Root Cause. Uncover the hidden patterns that shape your life. Because lasting transformation doesn't happen by pretending the root isn't there. We uncover it, we confront it, and with God's help, we change what grows from it.